Becoming who you're meant to be is never tidy.
It's the sacred in-between, where chaos meets clarity.
Where truth cracks open light and light brings you home.
Welcome to Journey to Radiance, where real stories,
raw truths, and
Brave transformation light the path forward. We're not here to give you a highlight reel.
We're here to talk about the parts of life that shape you.
the messy,
magnificent middle,
Where reinvention
begins. Welcome to Journey to Radiance. I'm Melissa.
I'm Alana.
I'm Jo.
Hi, Jo. How are you today?
I'm good.
Well, we're so glad that our tribe is here, and we're so glad that you're here, Jo. But could we just for a moment pause before we dive into our topic? There's something a little different today. Could you explain your current situation for our tribe?
Yeah. So I am currently in Hawaii. I came for my daughter having her baby. And anyone who knows anything or watches weather is probably aware that Hawaii it's been raining here for, I think, 3 weeks now. Consistently. Overnight, we had flood watches and warnings. I believe we are flooded, and there is no power. And it's 5 a.m.
It's 5 a.m.
Oh my God.
You're sitting in the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it's 5 a.m. You're sitting in the darkness because there is no power. And there's been biblical, ark-inducing rains. For those that understand the reference. Biblical rains.
Biblical.
And oh, by the way, your daughter had a baby. So congratulations,
Yeah.
Mama.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mama,
Thank you.
and are you a Nana?
Nana, yeah.
Nana. Okay. Hi,
Congrats.
Nana. Congrats, Nana.
Yeah.
Congrats,
Thank
Mama
you.
and Daddy. And so sorry. I mean, what a tale for all time, right? And yeah, that's incredible. Welcome, baby.
And that you didn't just say, I don't know, I think if it was me, I would have texted us and said,
I'm out.
yeah, go for it without me. And you are shining a beautiful light from your other phone flashlight onto yourself. It's like a beautiful, bright light.
It's a beautiful, bright light.
So thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to our project and our tribe and to the mission. So is there any, we have a topic that we've discussed. Are there any other topics that are percolating for you right now, Jo, that we want to pivot to, or are we full steam ahead as planned?
No, I think we're full steam ahead. I will say that we've talked about planning and how, you can plan ABC and when F happens. We are definitely in a GH mode here of planning.
Yeah. Well, and I just have to tell you, though, if as resilient as they come, you're showing up, you're figuring out how to do a remote podcast at 5 a.m. in a blackout in biblical rain. I think my money's on Jo. She's going to get the shit done.
So if anyone is questioning whether or not they can do it, you can.
Yeah.
You can do hard things.
You can do hard things. And if we could find the silver lining in this very serious and unfortunate circumstance, and I'm so sorry for what you guys are going through. I'm not trying to belittle it, but we've already talked about sometimes humor and levity is important to keep us grounded and gratitude and we can do this. I'm so grateful that blackout happened today and not 2 days ago.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
I'm trying to position if your daughter's going into labor and there's a power outage and there's no traffic lights and you're trying to get her there and all the things. I know, usually hospitals have emergency power, but you never know. And I just gratitude.
Yeah. And I'll say too, again, not making light of it, but when you hang up with us, you will only be able to be fully present with your daughter and your new grandchild.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is a great segue to our topic today. And today we're going to dive into kind of a tension that I think we've all kind of been experiencing in our own ways, which will come out in our personal shares. But, we each, the three of us, have expressed we have a desire to be human and empathetic and understanding and patient and really model that with ourselves and with others. We feel a responsibility also to be effective and clear, productive, accountable, and decisive. And sometimes those two things feel like they're pulling in opposite directions. And so we want to shed some light about that, because when you care about people, it's really easy to soften the message, to give more time, to explain again, to have, thoughts and feelings and considerations that you want to give because you see the human and the suffering in the human that you're dealing with, or the challenges in the human. And sometimes you hold space longer than you should. Not because you lack clarity, but because you don't want to hurt anyone. And also, something that I've just been personally processing and realizing is when you avoid clarity, it doesn't protect people. And we talked a little bit about this last episode, but it actually creates confusion, and the confusion is unkind. Even with the best of intentions, that confusion over time can erode trust in relationships and teams and even in ourselves. So today, our big question is, can you be both deeply human and highly effective? And just to delve a little deeper in that question is, can you lead with empathy without lowering a standard? Can you care about someone's experience and still hold the line on what needs to happen? And just to be clear, I don't think the goal is to become harder. I think in our discussion today, our goal is to become clearer and to trust that clarity and make sure that we're still, however, bringing the empathy and delivering it with care. So again, our big question, can you be both deeply human and highly effective? So, do you want to go first, Joe, just in the event that
We lose you.
we lose you? What's your contributions to be shared today?
You're washed away. I'm kidding.
Got my floaties ready.
I don't see two of each animal behind you, so I'm assuming we're in an okay place that we don't yet have.
Yeah. So this topic, it makes me think of the saying, mission first, people always. Because in business of any description, the job has to get done. It has to. There are exceptions where we have to pause or deviate from this plan or take a step sideways, whatever we have to do. But at the end of the day, the mission has to be accomplished and we have to deliver as a business. But caring for the people has to be always an underlying, continuous thing that is happening, because we can't expect those people to perform if they're not okay in their home life, in their personal life, in their mental state, whatever it is. So that's really what sat with me when we started talking about this. And really I don't have the how, but I know we've always witnessed it. And something else that you've said many times, Melissa, is truth is kindness. So it's finding, navigating those tricky paths and doing it all right. And there is no right and there is no wrong, but it's, giving space for all of those things is seemingly impossible, yet somehow we are juggling it. And maybe some days we don't manage it the best we do or the best we can, but it's a juggle constantly.
Yeah. It's messy, which is why,
sure.
we're wading in today. It feels very messy because, again, we may have the best of intentions, but when those intentions aren't expressed and discussed and that there's clarity, we may also be misinterpreting the situation. We could be misinterpreting the need. We could be inserting what we feel is valuable or what we feel is helpful or supportive, and it may not be supportive. And so, I so resonate with what you're saying, and I know that this has been a huge area of personal growth for me this last year in running my business, but also in my own personal life. And we've talked in past episodes, I feel like especially this amplifies for me when I feel like the stakes are really high. Whether it's, there's a big financial consequence in the business, or it's a relationship that I really, really value, close friends, my family, especially, we've talked about, especially my son. I have such a heightened sense of importance, and therefore everything feels a little bit more like the stakes are so much higher. How about you, Alana?
Yeah, I have never heard truth is kindness. So that just really sunk in with me. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people deserve to hear the truth. And as I work with some corporate teams, I think one of the main themes that I see is people are craving open, transparent communication.
Yeah.
And they can all be saying it, but no one's doing it and everyone wants it. So let's do it. And I think we get a little bit fearful of, well, how do I do that? And what will it sound like? And I thought of my good friend, Ryan Redmond. She's been a great mentor to me, was a coworker and just a killer director of sales. I drew this Venn diagram, and I want you to picture, this has helped prepare me as I was becoming a leader, and I think you can use it in business and in your personal life. Mm-hmm. But if you picture a Venn diagram, and on the left side is human focused, and the right side is performance focused, right? Good leaders, you want to be somewhere in the middle. And I do find that was something that came naturally for me. Mm-hmm. You have risks when you're too much on the human centered side, because you could be perceived as being too nice or taken advantage of or not trusted to make tough decisions. You probably have a hard time setting boundaries, or you may lean into people pleasing a lot more. So that's the human centered side if you're too leaning that way. And the performance center side, I've had a lot of bosses like this, and the hard thing about leaning too much performance centered was I always felt like I was never good enough. They were micromanaging me, almost like they really didn't give a shit about the people. All they care about is the numbers. So like if there's a death in the family or something happens, it's like, well, get it done anyway. And I think there's such a balance, and again, great leaders and great people have this self-awareness of how can I be in the middle. And I think it's great to know which one you naturally lean towards. I think we all naturally lean towards one or the other. And how can I take part in the other side? I had my old CEO, he was the CEO of a PE-backed company, so private equity-backed company, but we were an employee engagement company, okay? So he heavily leaned toward performance-focused, but he was very open and vulnerable with us that he had to, and was in real time, working towards the human-focused side. And he would be very open about when he dropped the ball or when he was socially awkward and didn't know what to say. But the point was he was open about it, and we went on to sell it, and he was just the right leader at that chapter of that business to get it to sell to a bigger company. So I got to see just great leadership and some, tough leadership throughout my career, and it's taught me kind of how to stay in the middle.
So when he showed up with that vulnerability, what did that do to your team dynamic, or how did that make you feel as a member on that team?
It helped us feel like you can show up not knowing all the answers because the CEO doesn't know everything, and it's okay. And it also showed that I think the human-centered side, you can relate towards emotional intelligence, right? EQ. And the performance-focused side, you can relate to IQ. And he was heavily IQ, but he was really working on the EQ side.
Wow. Yeah, and I think I'm very much more human leaning, and I have to strive to be also kind of objectively, outcome focused. And I'm finding now the rub for me is around getting alignment and clarity, because in my effort to be human leaning, I've taken on the responsibility that others should be caring for themselves. And I've delayed their professional development because I'm making it easier for them rather than holding them accountable to developing their own independent skills and standards that are going to actually allow them to accelerate their growth and do more and be better and achieve the goals that they have for themselves. But this isn't a unique dynamic for me as a leader. Like even within our organization, I found in that accountability piece, I recently had a sit down with a staff member, and it was really to address some disconnects in some of the outcomes that she is directly responsible for. And I mean, this is a department that gave me a very clear breakdown of roles and responsibilities, and these are the things that the different people do. And when we had a pretty major situation in one of her deliverables and one of her responsible parts, she said, "Oh, I'm just going to take my lumps. I should have done better." And thankfully, we had a deeper conversation. And in that conversation, it was revealed she was spending almost all of her time helping other people that were coming to her and saying, "Can you do this? I need help with this. I need this. I need this. I need this." And she had zero boundaries around what help was really helpful for them versus where are they getting some lazy tendencies, and they know if they come in and ask this individual, she's just going to be quicker to give them the information rather than forcing them to gain the skills and the discipline to help themselves. Yeah. So it's like teaching me how to fish, right? So in the unfortunate dynamic that occurred is it's like self-sacrifice, because she then fell down on her responsibilities because she was so focused on helping them. And so, in that conversation, we were able to kind of navigate what are some healthy boundaries for her around, yes, you want to be available and supportive of team, because that's our cultural mission and values alignment. But there has to be a clear understanding on, I'm willing to do this and this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show you once. I'm going to show you twice. But after twice, I've given you the document that you should be able to help yourself. And that's the expectation. After I've shown you twice, you have to be able to help yourself and direct yourself and find other support other than me, right? And I think it was really awakening, because part of it was people pleasing. I think she wanted to help, but she also revealed it was beyond people pleasing, because she knew that her work is impacted by their performance. So her work had a dependency on their output. So if their output wasn't good, she knew her input was going to be impacted. And so she, part of it was wanting to be a good team member from a culture perspective. Part of it was people pleasing, but also she's like, if I didn't help them, the inputs that I was going to get, I was going to have garbage to operate from. So it is very complex, and it is multi-layered in that way. And I think it's really important to have mindfulness around, are we taking someone else's responsibility, and what are the consequences to me? If we all have finite amounts of time, what are the consequences to me if I'm spending time taking on other people's responsibilities?
I think you can also relate it personally too, right? Like that exact scenario of picking up others around you or looking out for them first. Mm-hmm. Not that you have a performance review in your personal life, but you could, right, with yourself, and checking in and being like, I did all that and now I'm depleted or resentful because I took care of everyone else's needs and helped everyone else out first. So no wonder I'm last.
Yeah. That goes to that cup that Joe talked about in past episodes, right, Joe?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So continually pouring out of your cup versus, taking the time to refill and replenish yourself and make sure that you're not diminishing your needs and your values and your, I think for me, someone shared this with me, actually a coach shared this with me in the recent past, and it was such an aha for me. And it was around accountability, because accountability it's almost become it's almost been equated with punishment.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know when it took on that kind of more negative connotation, but this coach said to me, accountability is not something that you do to people. It's something that you hold for the standard. It's almost like we've humanized accountability in the sense that it's a person that we're going to hurt. And so it's something that you hold for the standard. And so it's elevating it to the mission, to Joe's point about mission first, people always. I feel as though that really helped me recognize that it's so much bigger than just the person that I feel I'm challenged by holding accountable. It's like, if I fail to hold that singular person accountable and they're part of a broader team, it's raising the awareness of, the impact is actually so much bigger.
Yes. Yes. That's just sinking in with me totally. And I think you had mentioned this last time, was which was also very eye-opening, is that you cannot hold people accountable unless the expectations are very clear.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that going into some organizations this past week of either no accountability, but usually that's because there were no clear duties, responsibilities, expectations set. So step one is get those in place before you can kind of lay down the hammer on someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know this is a hot button for you.
Yeah, I think accountability has been just this ongoing trend. And then my previous position before I came to USC Builds, it didn't exist. It didn't exist fairly and evenly across everything. And I think accountability has to be one of those things that's freedom within the framework, whereby everybody is held accountable, but we are human. There has to be room for that gray area to say, okay, you've got something going on. Even with that thing going on, what can you contribute? Can you contribute at all, or do you need to step away completely? And I think having those upfront conversations is the only way to address accountability, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. Some people need more accountability because they're not self-accountable. They're not self-driven, self-motivated. Other people, you can give them a way longer leash and they'll still perform amazingly. So I think it's, as leaders, getting to know our people. And it's just not a one-size-fits-all, I think, is the big thing.
What do you think is the denominator in those two dynamics you explained? So the person who you could, give a ton of leeway to, and they're still going to get it. Do you think it ties to self-awareness? Is it really about the self-awareness and what I need to perform, and also the impact that my performance has on others?
Yeah, I think it's self-awareness. It's self-motivation and drive. It's work ethic. And then those things all go down to motivation. So we could have a whole other 3 podcasts on, is motivation intrinsical or external, and, what drives people. And understanding that, getting people's why, their why, it can help us motivate as leaders. But I think it is something that you either have or you do not have. And if you don't have it, are you in the right place? That's always a question, right? So that if you're not feeling the motivation to go to work, even when you've got to shovel the driveway from snow and you've got to start the car and do all the things that make it hard to get to work. If you are not motivated to do those things, why not? And so that's where the self-awareness piece is for people to say, this is a struggle for me, why? And what could I do to make it better? Is it me? Is it the position? Is it the people? What is it? Where's my drive? So I think when we talk about accountability, we are each accountable for ourselves. That's where it starts. And I think, I'm not sure exactly how you phrased it at the beginning, Melissa, but you said it's almost, accountability has become like it's almost a bad word. Because how do you hold a grown adult accountable?
Yeah,
if they are already...
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If they're already not doing the things that have been stated, this is what is needed to keep your job and maintain employment, how much more accountability is our responsibility as leaders?
Yeah. Well, I think then it becomes more of the issue that you also identified is, are you in the right place, right? Yeah. So if you often hear about seats on the bus and the bus, right? So for me, if we take that analogy of that accountability is something that you hold for the standard, to me, the bus is the standard and the seats on the bus are kind of upholding the standard, right? And so it's number one, are you in the right seat? Sometimes it's much as like a shift internally to a different role that can spark a better alignment of interest and drive and all of those things that can spark that in someone, that you feel there's better alignment, therefore there's that self-accountability and therefore it doesn't need to be a micromanaged accountability. but sometimes you're not on the right bus.
Right.
And I had a very powerful example of this week where we have a role that was previously filled by another person. The person came in supremely intelligent, very capable, great, resume, great background, definitely identified as himself as a self-starter, and found himself in this role. And it was like he was kind of floundering. He was, we had to have constant course recorrections and something's off. We're not getting the performance and the outputs. And we would sit down and have alignment conversations. And then he would just go off on some rogue, activity and assignment and invent things to do rather than accomplishing the thing that was being asked of him. And so it came to a point of, a really crucial conversation that at the time, one of our leaders in the organization had with him. And they got to a mutual understanding, this is just not the role for you. And it was almost the reason truth is kindness is because if he stayed in that position, stayed in that organization, he's not happy. He's miserable, right? And he's delaying his ability to find his true why, his true mission, his true purpose. And it's almost like we're holding him hostage. Mm-hmm. And so when we freed him, he freed himself, actually. When he freed himself, we as an organization took a step back and then we kind of scanned the perimeter and said, who else is here that would thrive in this role? And we identified an individual that showed some interest and some capabilities that we felt like this is worth some examination. So rather than make a quick shift and put a person in a role, we said, let's give him some special projects that come from the role that we're trying to fill and let him demonstrate competency, let him build confidence, let him, let us establish that we have alignment on what motivates and energizes him. And so we did a few different special projects where he just basically started to envelop the role itself within the special project scope. And it awakened something in him. He has a different light in his eyes. Yeah. He has a different passion. He's now been promoted officially to that role. And this week, he went in and led a meeting of probably 15 people, 15 leaders of the organization. He led them in a facilitated collaboration meeting to kick off a new project. Wow. And I walked in and just seeing his aura, seeing his light, seeing his confidence, and seeing how competently he handled this meeting, it was impressive. Wow. And that would have never happened if we maintained our hostage, in the prior role. So it's truth is kindness, because when you embrace that and are willing to do what it takes to seek it out, recognizing your true intention is to do good and to do the right thing and to live in a respectful and whole and honest way, all that can come of it is good.
Yeah. I have a question. What was the question you asked to find out that, or to get the person to realize that they were in the wrong seat? What is the question you asked them? Do you remember?
So the first question was, how do you think this is going?
Yeah. I love that.
And
were they aware enough to say?
I think at first he got very defensive and wanted to deflect. Well, so-and-so's not giving me what I need, and I have to chase this down, and I have to do that. And it's just, I think well, why? And, we talk about the 5 whys all the time. Well, why? Why is that? Why is that? Why is it? And eventually the real heart of the matter question was, are you happy doing what you're doing? Are you really excited to come to work every day? Mm-hmm. Is it really energizing you?
Right. And be honest with me about it. Give them the floor to be honest, because you're right. I think, if someone asks me that, it's almost like they have to ask me a couple times for me to really break down and be like.
Yeah, and then share the reflection. So the reflection was, when you first came here, you were so engaged with team. You had just this smile that was so bright and joyful. And it almost feels like you're hiding now. It's like your light is dim, your head's down, you have your headphones on, you're not engaging with team, you're not coming out to the, when we have the birthday celebrations or hey, there's donuts, you don't come out and join us for that. Something's shifted. What's different? What's really going on? Yeah. And I think, I think it got to less of a defensive posture, and I think he was able to have some self-reflection. I do feel as though he didn't come into that meeting with that awareness. I feel like they got to it together. But at the end of the meeting, when he freed himself, he came and hugged the other leader and said, "Thank you. I really appreciate how you approach this." And Godspeed, So freeing him, he's not on our bus, but guess what? He probably found his bus.
Yes.
And we already had someone on the bus, but when we put him in the seat, it's like, wow, it just a whole awakening of another layer of this person's like spirit and soul came to fruition. Mm-hmm. So truth is kindness. And it never would have happened if it were not for the accountability of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Love it. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the individual who is now in that position, and appeal is to be in the greatest seat he could find on the bus. For now, I think there's probably more growth. And he's definitely on the right bus. He was ready to get off the bus because he had a family matter he had to take care of. But Melissa saw the work ethic and the commitment that he had shown in his position prior to this and said, wait, can we not make something work? Which is why I nicknamed Melissa the conductor of metamorphosis, because she sees people and she creates and molds and metamorphosizes things to make seats on the bus, and that's how that happened, because he came to work, he had the accountability and the work ethic, and that was recognized, and through that, look at him now. It's amazing.
Yeah, he definitely earned that opportunity, and what I would say on that too, the other thing that he showed up with, he was willing, he signed up for initially his role was around an emerging technology that we were adopting. We're an exclusive dealer of this particular technology, and his willingness to be on the new frontier of that, having zero basis of understanding or past experience, but willing to just do what it took because he was excited by the newness of it and the invention of it. And so I saw a spark in that person. It's like, he can do anything. When you have that level of bravery to explore what is not presented to you or paved out for you, you have enough self-confidence and self-awareness to know that you can learn anything and that you're going to be okay. You're not, for me as the leader, that was a no-brainer. I'm not losing this specialness because of a circumstance that he has himself, that he found himself in to prioritize family. First of all, we're an organization that prioritizes family. And so we can do hard things. Let's think about, we work in hybrid environments. What other roles could you serve in? You can't be in the field anymore doing specific projects. We understand that. You need to be home in another location. But there's other jobs and performance, different roles that you can serve in that you can work remotely. So why wouldn't we be open-minded to explore what that looks like? And it wasn't a straight line. It was trial and error in a few different things, and try this and try, that's not really working, and that's not really working. But it's having enough faith and confidence in ourselves and in him that we're going to figure this out. And now guess what? It is going to multiply not only for him, but dividends to the organization.
Right. And you just said something so important. You believed in him. And you could have, unfortunately, a kind of bad leader would have maybe just said, let him go. Yeah. And not even explored the full wheel of what's possible for him. And now you're pulling out his strengths and things that motivate him so that he can even go into fearful or unknown situations like that new technology. And he has the confidence because you believed in him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that good leaders do and we need as humans. And I'm thinking of, some leaders who have been more performance focused. And that was really hard for me. And I kind of want to ask, because I feel like there are people out there listening, what do you do if you have a boss, manager that is heavily performance focused and you are craving and needing that human-centered side?
Yeah.
Because I went through that, and I remember talking about this kind of Venn diagram with my boss who was very performance focused, and she didn't hear it. right?
Yeah.
She wasn't ready to hear it. So I don't know, any advice that you guys have for people who have a boss like that, where they...
Well, I commend you, because it's very similar to what I would say my recommendation would be, just based on my own past experience because I've also worked for those performance focused individuals. It's I think finding a way to translate the impact that their lack of empathy has on your performance. It's coming to them to say, here is how you optimize me. I know that you're really keenly, prioritizing my performance, and I have these circumstances happening in my life, and for me, I'll tell you, this was my direct experience. I was working for a company that was it was like a sales type of organization, very performance metric driven. Comp was tied to that. It was very like data driven, detail oriented. I had a situation where I also needed to prioritize being home for my son earlier in the day because he got off the bus, and there wasn't a solution that made sense for him to do like after school or wraparound. And so I needed to create the space where I could go and work from home for certain periods of time. And so I literally created a presentation on how I can optimize my performance by working 2 hours from home at the end of every day, and how I was going to structure my workday in order to prioritize and give my boss the understanding of how I was tracking towards my performance. So it was really about creating a reporting mechanism where he had line of sight on what I was actually doing and accomplishing. So every day before I left, he would have a comfort of knowing I've already hit the mark. So even if I go home and like blow off the rest of the day, even if his mind wants to go to that dark place and assume the worst, I've already done everything you've asked me. Now I'm going to go home and do these extra things that you didn't ask me. And so it's being able to present the solution in a way that aligns with the values and the priorities of that leader would be my recommendation.
That's really helpful. Yeah. I love that you said, this is how to optimize me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, let me care about my family.
Yeah.
Let me come in an hour late because I got to get my kids on the bus. You're going to get less worried, Melissa. I'll be optimized when I get here because I'm not stressing about being written up because I'm late. And we've always created an adaptable, I actually think the positive culture attributes that we've been able to create in my company have been born from the toxic, painful work environments that I've come from. So working in low trust environments, I constantly felt stressed if my kid was homesick, if I had to miss work, if I had to go to a doctor's appointment, if I had to do something, any with my family, I felt instant stress. So guess what? My entire performance tanked around those events. Mm-hmm. So what I've said is I hire professional, responsible adults, and I trust you to behave accordingly. There will be data points to verify that my trust is well placed. Please don't violate that, because then there will be a different version of me that shows up. Mm-hmm. But if you show me that you've earned my trust and trust can be maintained, I trust you to do what's right for the organization and your family, and I trust that you can do both.
That's such a great quality. And yes, you remember the tough leaders where I used to text them and God forbid I'd be 10 minutes late or I was sick, and I'd be so nervous to say I'm sick because I would think they thought I was faking it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? And then going to a company with a great culture, it was like, oh my God, I can take a deep breath. I can be myself. But I really had to, I really think I had PTSD from that toxic culture. It carries on with you. And
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, by the way. If you sense your boss distrusts you for being sick, you're going to be so anxious about being sick that you'll eventually despise going to work. And, no judgment. Sometimes people despise going to work and they'll invent reasons not to go to work. And that just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If I just give a little bit of trust and then have accountability that maps to that in the sense of, here's what I expect from you. Here's what success looks like if you're serving in this role. And if I trust that and I see the results that affirm that, then we're good, right? And so I think where I am more refining now is making sure that alignment is there, making sure you're crystal clear on what success in the organization, how that maps to your performance, and being really clear. And Joe's been supremely helpful in this regard. Like, yes, we have, SOPs. So we have operating procedures that we've developed, and you develop those, and then it's like, the tendency is like, okay, that document's there. Like, how does that document become a living, breathing, operationalized thing? And how do we know we're in alignment with it? And then the other side of that is there's so many layers to that are not on that document. So-and-so is responsible for our insurance audit. Great. Well, who's responsible in getting all of the employee data that's necessary in order to get that insurance audit done, right? So if you have an SOP that just identifies the audit, there's like an iceberg of responsibilities under there that if you don't have that level of clarity, there's a foregone conclusion. There will be misalignment, there will be upset, there will be missed balls, and there will not be accountability. There will not be healthy accountability, right? And then my own ownership and going to that training last week was recognizing I was guilty of toxic accountability, because if I don't have that level of clarity, I'm making a lot of assumptions, and then I'm overreacting based on the outcomes, and then that becomes toxic because there was an alignment. Mm-hmm. What do you think? I call her Yoda. Yoda Joe.
Yeah, I think it's all correct. And there's a book, and I hate to quote a book when I cannot look up who wrote it, but it's called You Can Count on Me, and it defines accountability as doing what you said you would do, when you said you would do it, how you said you would do it. That's the simple definition of accountability. And again, I hate to quote because I don't have the actual quote in front of me. But that's it simplified, but it's so much more complex than that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that when you came back from that training and you said how getting clarity on people's understanding. No.
How toxic I was. I'm so toxic. Oh my God, Joe, help me. Just kidding.
But I was on the same page. Like, why are we having to go to this? Why do we have to break down an SOP or a job description to somebody at this level? Because everybody interprets things differently. And clarity is, everything.
Yeah.
That's one of the last questions I ask clients in one-on-ones. Typically in coaching, you want to have an action. So like, what action wants to be born from this, from our last hour together? Mm-hmm. So it's on them. And maybe there's no action. Mm-hmm. And then it's, will you do that? By when? Mm-hmm. And how would you like me to hold you accountable? Now, that doesn't mean Alana, has to hold them accountable, like I got to text them or email them. How would you like me to hold you accountable? Meaning, how would you like to be held accountable? Oh, a client can say, I'm going to put it in my calendar for 5 p.m. that I have to do that. Or I'm actually going to have my husband tell me, make sure I do it. Mm-hmm. You pick a way that you want to be held accountable. And it can be you holding yourself accountable or someone else. But I love like kind of asking that. And then you can follow up with it as homework the next time.
Yeah.
And if you do it, great. What'd you learn from it? If you didn't do it, great. What did you learn by not doing it?
Yeah, I love the specificity of time, like the date and the method of accountability, because I think it also forces the person to define what works best for them, which also then aligns to what they're most often, what they will be following through with, because it maps to like their belief system. I love the simplification and clarity in that. And I think going back to the empathy versus accountability, I had kind of this little epiphany about how simple it can be. Is empathy is, I understand you. Accountability is, and this still needs to happen.
Yeah, this still needs to get done.
Yeah. And both can exist at the same time. There's not a either or, it's a yes and. And basically empathy is just changing the tone. Mm-hmm. It's not changing the expectation.
Right.
Right? And I think because we've equated accountability to be a negative word, we're like, oh, it's just so hard. I'm gonna just make it easier because I don't want to have that the discomfort of that conversation, or I have to force that. So like we're bringing that energy to the table.
Yeah.
That energy doesn't naturally exist. We bring that with us to that dynamic.
Two things can be true. I learned that from, I think it's a very ancient saying, inner wisdom. I'm not sure if it was the Buddhists or who said it, but my good friend Kunal from the UK would always say it, two things can be true. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Two things can be true. I can be very empathetic and hold people accountable and be respectful, yet get shit done. And I think I do. I have to say, I do think I did that very well. And when I left corporate, people would tell me, you had a good balance of like, I knew, you weren't messing around, but also they knew that personally I would be there for them through anything. Yeah.
No, that's such a good balance and such a healthy, and you also demonstrate, like when people now have that as a reference point, it gives clarity on what that looks like for them.
Yes.
Right? Like you are the representation that mattered to that person to understand, oh, she's kind, but she's getting shit done. Right? Like I think you are the one that resets the understanding and expectation around that for sure.
Thank you. And I had good mentors who showed me. Right?
Right. But I'm also aware, so one quick thing on that before I switch gear, but you don't have to choose between being kind and being clear. You just have to stop believing that kindness requires you to be unclear.
Say it again.
For the people in the back.
For the people in Hawaii.
For the people in Hawaii sitting in the dark at 5 a.m. It's 5:48, by the way. You don't have to choose between being kind and being clear. You just have to stop believing that kindness requires you to be unclear. So what's your one thing?
I really love truth is kindness. I think that is something I'm going to take with me. Hopefully if I'm leading people in my own company someday, and a great reminder that you get to be honest, that you get to set boundaries, that you get to honor yourself in the process, because it is honoring the other person when you're open with them. So, that was big for me.
I love that. I love your diagram.
Thank you.
Because I think a real visual clarity of like the kindness and the outputs or the outcomes is really helpful. And knowing that so it's
performance,
human, yeah. Knowing that I'm on the human side, I think it's also being mindful of the potential swing.
Yes.
And you talked about giving until a point where you've maxed that out, and then comes the resentment. And I very much feel that when I'm constantly leading from that human-focused, like almost exclusively human-focused approach, there comes a time where I feel taken advantage of, and then I'm like a light switch. And I go from over-accommodating to over-correcting. And so it's almost like a monster of my own making, where, so my one thing is to maintain the balance in the middle of that, to avoid that pendulum potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my one thing is the how you described Melissa saying you're going to get the best of Melissa if, and it's that freedom within the framework. So this is what needs to be accomplished, and this is how I can do it best. It's not necessarily being at a desk from 9 to 5. There's variance, and to get the best out of me, the freedom within the framework is critical, but it's the courage and the discipline to have that open, honest, and vulnerable conversation. It takes that too.
Yeah, and I do think that's the way work is going to go, or should go, is asking people what works best for them and where they're their most productive self. I mean, you can do the disc, you can do human design. I mean, I remember running one of my reports and it said that I work best in a kitchen environment. Something about that, like bringing my laptop into the kitchen, it's just the way I'm designed, right? So it's like, why don't we figure that out for people so that they can show up as their best selves and do their best work? We can't assume that everyone loves to sit behind a desk from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to get over that. And I do want to say that the human-centered versus performance-centered relates to the disc. So I and S are naturally humanity, lean more towards human and people, and D and C naturally care more about performance. And I am an ID, and I think you are too. So that's why we are
I'm actually equally balanced ID. It's the strangest thing.
So then you are
in the
likely
middle?
in the middle. Woo!
Well, with people-pleasing tendencies,
right,
that might swing us on the other.
Yeah, we didn't add all
There's
the
a weight on the
trauma that
scale.
we've been through.
There's the weight on the scale, as they say. So I want to actually raise 4 questions because what I do, we talked about this being, we're tilling the garden in this conversation, and then we're going to go off and do the work, right? And that's where the growth happens, is it's with the new awareness of the conversation and then going and taking that away. And so I thought 4 questions just to help you kind of frame and gain awareness of where you are if you do not have a clear sense of where you are on this on the scale, so to speak. So first question, and again, these are just meant to be kind of, thought-provoking, something that you're kind of pondering in your lived experience as you do your everyday, life and tasks. First question, where have you recently chosen empathy over clarity, and what did that actually cost you? Second question, what conversation have you delayed because you care about the person, and how is that delay impacting the outcome?
Ooh.
Third question, when did you realize that being nice was actually creating confusion or misalignment? And fourth question, what does it look like for you to hold someone accountable without hardening or shutting down?
Wow.
That's
some reflections there. So in our closing mantra, just want to have us kind of close our eyes and just be present for a moment. And this is just a takeaway thought and feeling for you to ponder. I can be kind and clear at the same time. I honor people and I honor the standard. I do not carry what is not mine to hold. I trust that clarity builds stronger relationships than comfort. I lead with both heart and truth.
Namaste.
Namaste. Now I'm going to go, but... It's all right, Alana.
It wouldn't be you.
It's free flowing, Alana. Let's go. I heard people like that Alana story.
Hey, sure. How could they not?
How could they not? Now you have to go down the rabbit hole of listening to all of our podcasts to find out which episode had the Alana reference. Well, to our tribe, we're so grateful that you spent this time with us today. We know your time is valuable and really feel honored to have the impact that we do and to share this experience with you and share our lives with you. We encourage you to follow us on our socials and feel free to share out some thoughts and ideas of topics that you'd like to see us cover. We're open to get messy with you, and we really encourage you to share with us so that we're making sure we're bringing the content that's most meaningful in your journey as well. So thank you for joining, and we hope to see you soon.